Hello and happy Friday, everyone. Glad to have you joining this Mitel MiVoice Connect end of life webinar. We're going to talk through what's that mean, what are the dates, and then where do you go from here? So excited to have a good crew on today. Couple housekeeping things. Use the QA. If you've got any questions, I'll definitely have time at the end to hit them, but if it makes sense to try to fold some of those in while we're going real time, I'll try to do so as well. And, we've got a recording of this if you need to share it with any of your peers afterwards. Got an upcoming webinar later this month for Genesis SMS outbound campaigns. We should have a lot of other great webinars we were just discussing prior to starting this webinar. A couple of the other exciting ones coming up. So keep your eyes open. We'll have a few good ones. I don't think I missed anything on housekeeping, so let's jump in. I think we've got a good crew and probably a couple of people will trickle in. So we'll jump into first, like to start with just a little bit of a background. We always get a couple people on who maybe haven't worked with us, aren't current customers, just level set who we are. So we're a Mitel MiVoice Platinum partner. So we have a lot of experience on that product side, but more broadly than that, we really help companies with their unified communications, contact center, and really CX technologies. Our job when it comes to communications is helping you with your internal employees and your customers, right? With how they communicate and engage with your business. Really have a neutral approach to that. So while we're going to talk about Mitel timeline, when you think about where do you go from here, this is really kind of a wide open path. And I'll talk about some of the partnerships and specific tech vendors we're seeing a lot of good traction and great products with, but know that we really approach this with what are you trying to do? What are you doing today and where are you trying to get to, and help marry companies to the right technology partners. I'm going to jump in here to a couple things just to give you a sense. Work with all sorts of different verticals. So if you're in a particular industry that you think is very unique, we've probably worked in it. Actually, we got a lot of different customers. Actually, many of these customers on here too, we've helped them through a journey from Mitel MiVoice Connect to other platforms. And so we've had like a long journey that's transcended different platforms and helped them through those transitions. If you look at kind of the tech landscape, we think of it in kind of three buckets. You've got your CCaaS, contact center as a service, work with all the great players in there. You've got the CX ecosystem where if you're tired of hearing about AI, I'm sorry, you're going to hear a lot more of it over the next years. But where AI really fits in a lot of the communication space, business communication space, a lot of it happens around customer experience, customer engagement. So a lot of the players in that space, we've got a lot of depth and experience there. And then UcaaS, right, which is really your phone, your messaging, your meetings. And this is a space where we're going to spend time in all these buckets, but work with all the main players in that space as well. These are some of the partnerships we work with. Some you might recognize, some you might not, but there's a lot more than this, just kind of a sampling, right, of who we work with. And I'll reference some more of these when you talk about kind of paths forward from Mitel. So let's jump into the heart of what we're going to talk about. So MiVoice Connect, which you might still call it ShoreTel. That's the ShoreTel product line, right? Many customers have been on this for a long time. And so this product has been around for pre-Mitel acquisition, early 2000s, right? So this is a 20-year-old product in that ballpark. Obviously, version updates and a new build when Connect came out, all that kind of stuff. But there's now officially an end of life for this product. And so this was announced just a couple weeks ago and put on paper. And so I've got some screenshots here from the actual end of life bulletin. And so sometimes these things are written really cryptically, so I won't spend a ton of time, but I want to break down a couple key dates for you guys to walk away with here. So the first one is probably not too many people in this bucket, but there's no more new system sales by next July 6th of 24, right? So if anyone's looking to buy a new system, they should not buy MiVoice Connect right now. It's not officially not being sold, but it will in about less than a year. The most important date on here, though, there's two. The first one is this end of add-on sales, December 31st, 2024. So this is 15 months approximately from now. At that point in time, you can't add on hardware or software to your current MiVoice system. So what does that mean? That means your system can't expand at that point in time. If you look down in this bottom table, this kind of gives a little more detail That end of add-on sale date means no more design support. What does that mean? That means really no more feature enhancements happening, which are already in place. There's not really any feature enhancements going on. Technical support will still be able to be existed if you have a maintenance managed service contract. There'll be no more patching. So from a system stability, vulnerability standpoint, unless there's something catastrophic, it's at Mitel's discretion to do patching, but they're not planning it beyond that date of December 31st, 24. And in support, knowledge base, tickets, in RMA, that will continue. It's really, though, the big thing is your system can expand, so you can't scale. If you buy a company, if you go beyond the users, you need to add something, you can't beyond that date. And that's 15 months away. So it's really important for everyone to walk away with an understanding of that. And then the other thing is that patching, security, stability, it's not going to evolve. So as sort of threats evolve and operating systems evolve, the product is not evolving at the point. So you're going to run into potentially security risk issues, but also potentially compatibility if you're trying to upgrade operating systems and hypervisors and those types of things. You're going to run into potential challenges for compatibility there, or you're going to have to run some of those systems, on older versions and maybe your corporate standard. So that's the big date. Now, you'll be able to run that system with support through December 31st, 2029. Again, it's not going to be able to be expanded, though, and not going to be kind of patched and repaired. It's just kind of break fix support on it. So that's really the key dates. So you've got a long time till it's no longer supported. Got a lot less time till you really have a system that's kind of fixed and, no more patching. And certainly if you have questions, we can drill down, just fire away on the Q&A if that's not clear. But those are the two main dates. So let's drill into, all right, what's that mean for me? Really at this point, what the message we're sharing with customers is, look, it's been a great run on the system for many customers, hopefully. There's been frustration. Some customers are unhappy with the system. There's been bugs and things like that. But for a lot of customers, I think it's been a good run overall. I'd say the majority, but I like Tom Petty. Like, it's time to move on. It's time to move on with the system. There's 15 months from where, if this is mission critical to your business, the communications technology, once you get past December of 24, there's risk. There's risk in, well, it's not evolving, right? Which your business probably is, but it's no longer evolving. It has potential for vulnerabilities, stability challenges, compatibility challenges. So between now and December is when the majority of people really should look at making a change to something else. And again, many customers have. If you're on this, you probably haven't yet. That's okay. You're not the last. You're definitely not the first. So let's talk about, what does a standard journey look like? This is where we spend a lot of time helping customers, typically assessing the current needs, evaluating anywhere from 1 to 3 providers, doing demos, getting pricing. Optionally, some customers do like a proof of concept. Some customers optionally do more of a scorecard, right? This comes down to what's the level of effort and engagement you want help with on this evaluation and transition to something new. And this is, of course, where we can help you. Building the business case, right? One of the things you're going to move from is, you've probably paid off. This was a CapEx on the financials for buying the ShoreTel Mitel system years ago. And you're paying maintenance, and now you're going to move to something that's a SaaS platform, likely, right? So that's going to move to an OpEx, building the business case, talking about that. What's the one-time cost for deployment? What's the total cost? Things like that. Can help with a lot of this. We help with customers with, there are trade-offs, right? You're paying maintenance today, but you're not paying for, the service ongoing. How does this all work out? We can help you if you need to do kind of ROI modeling. But where does telco go? Does that stay? Does that go? All those things we help customers kind of navigate through. And it just depends on what your situation is and what solutions you're moving to, of how that shakes out. Get through normal, like, scoping. How are we going to do this type of project and transition? Go through, contracting, red lines, that type of stuff. And then moving into the fun part, right? The deploying of the technology, doing that sort of transition from users interacting with MiVoice Connect to now transition, getting trained on, and now interacting, and numbers moving over, numbers being ported to your new system, and away you go. And then it's how do we optimize, right? That's one of the cool things that we won't spend any time on, but the amount of growth and potential with probably if you're on MiVoice Connect, you're probably just using the phone. That's most customers. But if you look at, and I'll shift into the next page here because I think it's a good segue, actually. Oops, went too far. Hold on. Here we go. All right. So if you look at a lot of customers on MiVoice Connect are using it for phone, right? That's the bread and butter. It was phenomenal. It's still phenomenal at that, right? Good, solid ability to have calls. A lot fewer people using it for messaging, right? Communicator, connect client messaging, and even fewer using it with meetings. Those are areas where it wasn't as strong. If you look at where you're going, the UcaaS market, right? Unified Communications as a Service, that space is really phone messaging and meetings and texting and faxing, right? I only put a couple, there's more, but these providers and platforms do all of that. So you're really going to be able to give your users or consolidate down maybe things that are disparate and give them feature functionality. By the way, one of the cool things we're seeing too is where AI comes into play here, right? Meetings being able to be transcribed, real-time captioning on meetings, right? Some of these things are really powerful tools that can be used within the organization if you want, that you're going to have options for. You have no option for doing that on the current MiVoice platform. If you look at where most customers that are just using that UcaaS have the UcaaS needs of their business, a lot of it's RingCentral, a lot of it's Zoom, and then a good portion Teams. If you look kind of peel underneath that, I would say give me a second here. Just lost my notes. There we go. I mean, those are kind of the top performers, I would say, that we see. And you can see it. We've got the Gartner for some reference points too. You can see them on there as well. Those are the kind of the big three that we see a lot of MiVoice Connect customers gravitating towards. RingCentral has, I'll give you a little tiny history lesson here. Mitel had their own cloud solution for a number of years that if you're moving from MiVoice Connect, they wanted to move you to their cloud product. Well, going on now a year, or maybe it's been 2 years, they basically threw in the towel on that and said, you know what, rather than trying to focus on being a world-class UcaaS company, we're going to partner with RingCentral. And so Mitel established a partnership with RingCentral. And so their go forward kind of, if you're moving from Mitel to a UcaaS solution, RingCentral would be the path they would love to see. And then so there's some benefits to you as a customer though. The 400 series and the 6900 series phones work on RingCentral. So if you want to carry handsets forward, some customers do, some customers don't. You can do that with RingCentral, right? They've got IP that they've shared. They've built out capabilities to have that happen. So that's a common path forward. Besides that, RingCentral has been a great leader. We've worked with them for probably 6 years now, and they're I mean, it's enterprise, right? They've got a global footprint, great voice, messaging, mobility, rock solid sort of in all the categories you'd expect. Zoom has come on a little later to the UcaaS market, but they have come on very strong. And obviously everyone knows them as a household name. They started really on the meeting side, of course, right? And have expanded that phone and messaging capabilities and have done a phenomenal job. So you have a lot of customers that maybe are already familiar with Zoom, maybe already have some spend with Zoom on the meeting side. So it makes a lot of sense to look at that path for them going forward. And then Teams, Teams is everywhere when it comes to Microsoft 365. Where I'd say Teams is not been a fit for everyone is its actually weakest point is still the phone. So meetings pretty solid, messaging, of course. And it's obviously tied in with, the broader kind of office productivity suite. Their phone is a bit behind some of the other leaders in this space. So oftentimes customers are using Teams paired with other UcaaS providers, or it's part of the strategy. Maybe it doesn't become the only system. We can help in either case with that kind of strategy. So then there's a lot of customers, and you might be in this bucket where you have some contact center. Maybe it's light, maybe it's heavy. And all of these aren't kind of mutually exclusive. A lot of these guys move between them, but I'd say a lot of customers, RingCentral still a great fit, Zoom's still a great fit. And then you see somebody like a Dialpad enter the mix here. And Dialpad's not new, but I would say it has really put a lot of emphasis in building out their contact center. They've always had a strong UcaaS play. And so you see more of those three, I would say, on that. Somebody who's more of a, hey, I've got MiVoice and I've got work groups on MiVoice Connect, or I've got ECC or CCC Connect Contact Center. start looking at some of those blended solutions, these are some of the players that rise to the top there. And then if you're MiVoice Connect and you're like, hey, I'm mostly contact center, that's the core of our business, then you'll see some of the players like Genesys and Five9 and ICX1, which are really kind of tried and true, excellent leaders in the kind of CCaaS, contact center as a service space. So that's what we're seeing. That's not all we're seeing, and certainly not the breadth of what we can help customers with, but that's where I'd say a majority of conversations and migrations are occurring today. And not just are occurring, but I think those are proven to be really good fits for a lot of customers on this migration journey. So let's talk a little bit about timeline now. You've got a sense of the Mitel timeline. Remember, it's 15 months to that December 24 date where the system is maintenance mode effectively at that point in time. So this is what we're seeing with customers. At a high level, 3 to 9 months. It could take longer than that, depending on the complexity, if you're international, different business units, right? But this is kind of a good average. And it's typically pretty evenly distributed amongst 3 areas, right? You've got a couple months of evaluating, a couple months of building the business case and getting through contracting, and a couple months of deploying. So that, that's kind of what we're seeing over and over. And again, someone can move really quickly through this. The only one that usually is going to be, I would say, more like 2 to 3 months is typically deployment, right? If you're porting numbers, which almost everyone should be, there's a couple weeks right there just in getting that coordinated. Obviously, you don't want to cut any corners on training users and making sure you've got a great project plan and all that sort of stuff. So you can accelerate the first 2. I'd say the last one, there's not too many corners to cut. So that's maybe 1 month would be very aggressive. We do have customers that want to do that or need to do that, but typically it's more like 2, 3 or more, depending on complexity or other projects going on with the customer. So hopefully that gives you a sense of timeline. If you do the math on that, though, that means now is the time. Like, let's have conversations now. If you're a customer on MiVoice Connect and you now have clarity, hopefully, on timeline of the product, let's dig in. And that's kind of where I'll take the end of this before we answer some questions that are building up here. So where do you go from here, right? So, I mean, engage with us, right? These are the conversations we're having with most customers. And if we are not having with it, let's lock arms and start talking about this journey. What do you want this evaluation to look like? What's your procurement process look like? How deep do you want to go? Do you want us to look at what you've got and give you some recommendations, or do you want us to help kind of really just be the guide of evaluating multiple solutions? We can play either role. We can take on a lot of the lifting. I know I assume we have a lot of IT people on here, and it's very rare that I'll talk with one of our customers where their IT team is expanding at the same rate as the rest of the company, right? You're often being tasked to do more with the same or less. And so I get that. We can take on a lot of that heavy lifting because I imagine you have lots of projects on your plate, meaning let's get in and talk to your users and assess what's in your current system and document that. And let's give you some recommendations based on that of what providers might be a good fit initially to evaluate and go further down the path with. Let's help with any sort of procurement or RFP pieces you need to do. All those things we can do. So we can come in and take a lot of that load off. We still, of course, need engagement from you and your opinions and access to the right people. But we run this really like a project for customers to help them make a great decision and move it. And that's why we have customers who have already gone through this journey that they're no longer MiVoice Connect, but they're an InflowCX customer on a new platform, because we can help be there by your side and do a lot of the carrying of the load. And then beyond that, we can be there as much or as little as you want on that deployment and beyond, right? So if you want us to just be there to help project coordinate and keep you guys internally and the tech provider on track, you need us to run the project, you need us to deploy and configure the tech, as much or as little, we can help with that across all of these providers in this space. So really kind of beginning to end, we're going to be there to help you. And then certainly on the optimized side, that's one of the exciting things we're not going to touch on today, but you're going to have a platform, whatever you end up with, you're going to have a platform that's going to have a lot of capabilities that are evolving rapidly. And things like I talked about, the adoption of AI within some of these platforms is really aggressive. But what I'd say is a lot of businesses aren't there yet. So as you settle into a new system, taking advantage of some of these things over time What's the right pace of that? What are the security implications of that? How do you get your users trained up? We'll be there by your side to really help you kind of grow into these solutions, because there's some really cool things that are happening in them. I get to see this from helping customers, but also internally, right? We're customer on these technologies too, and being able to use this and have that benefit our sales team and our support teams. It's powerful in helping transform our businesses as well. So I would say get in touch with me. I hopefully know some of the people on this call and have talked to you, but if not, would love to talk with you. I get to lead our sales org. We've got about 30 people in our sales team that can, I'll get you connected with the right ones to help you plug in and start mapping out this journey together. So that's really the call to action is engage. We'd love to have a conversation. I gave you a high level of how things flow. Now it's how does that really apply in your world? What do you have on MiVoice Connect? What are the timelines and challenges you're facing? Let's kind of chart a course together that can make the most sense. So I'll pause there and move to the next thing, Q&A. All right. So let's see, I've got one or two questions here that haven't been addressed. And so if you've got any more, pop them into the Q&A now, and I'll see if I can get to them. But let me hit a couple of the ones I've got. Let me get this screen pulled up here so I can do that. All right. So so I hit on this question. The question is, what phones from Mitel work on RingCentral? So Mitel phones that are 400 series, so like 480s, 485s, those types of phones, and then the 6900 series models. I would say we have a lot more customers with 400 series than 6900s, but if you have either of those versions, those are phones that can work on RingCentral, meaning they'll register to RingCentral and be endpoints you can use. So that's one of those things between that Mitel RingCentral partnership they worked out, was the ability to have software and integrations where that Mitel hardware can now work on RingCentral. All right. Clarifying question, the end date, yes, December of 2024 for that end of add-on sales line. I'll go back to it really quick, so I think that's a good spot to stop here and have up, because I think, all right, so yes, Angel, that is December 31st, 2024, end of add-on sales. That is that date where the system really can't expand from there, and you can't, there's no more patching at that point, really. So that's where it's sort of frozen in time. That's the important date. Let's see, I've got a couple more questions here. So let's see. I kind of touched on this one. I'll hit this one quickly. It was noted that Ring and Zoom were noted under UcaaS. Let me jump to this actually to answer this question. Where did we have that? Yeah, so Ring and Zoom have contact center as well. So somebody, I think, just to answer this question, Ring and Zoom do have contact center as well. Highlighted them as UcaaS only. We have a lot of customers that are UcaaS only, but if you have contact center, they're great, viable options. They have tremendous contact center solutions as well. And then a question here from Wesley: Are there any premise-based solutions you're recommending, or just hosted? It's a great question. So this is an interesting question. We are not. There are very few premise options now going forward. Cisco is really kind of not doing more. I don't know the exact timeline of their kind of call manager, communications manager end of life, but my understanding is they're moving fully to hosted, sort of phasing out. So you've got Cisco customers kind of going through a similar journey right now. Mitel does have a prem product that they're going to continue forward with. We're not going to, from a deployment perspective, managed service perspective, won't be doing it. We just see most customers are not going that route, and it's a big lift for us to kind of invest. So it's a good question. So there are Mitel options, Avaya options. Obviously, Avaya has had some challenges through the years, and then there's some smaller players out there that I think have premise options still. But I'd say, Wesley, mostly from our perspective, we're going to focus on hosted or cloud. That's where the vast majority that's where all the innovation's really going, but also where the market's going. But there are some options out there if that's where you're headed as an organization. Good question. Let's see if I had anything else on the questions. And check my notes. Last thing I'll say, the role, hopefully it's clear what role we can play. We can be there as your guide. We can be there to carry a lot of the load. We can carry, deployment, managed services. We can do all of that, or as little as you want. But I think there's a lot of questions and noise in this space. And I think one of the great things we bring is we can cut through all that kind of noise. What's really actually happening? How does this really work? And how do I get there? Those are the conversations we love having. So if you have any questions, I'll jump to the end here just so you have make sure you have my contact info. Oops. Reach out to me. Also, I'll put it to the last slide here. Reach out to call in, contact at Inflow, get in touch with us. So we'd love to have a conversation, kind of talk to your specific environment, talk to your specific budget, timeline, other challenges that you guys are facing, and help chart a good path forward. But really appreciate the time. Hopefully you got some insights today, and have a great Friday and great weekend.